the next option is you have the ability to do some customizing for styles and formatting or fonts. You can go in, you can take your company colors, you can pop in the codes for those colors and create specific fonts for your organization's reports. The default library location, here is just an ability to go in and you can change where you want the report to generate. So the example that the slides talk about is if you're going through and just creating a bunch of reports that you don't want to go into your production folder, depending on how it's organized, you can change it momentarily until you're done and then flip it back to where you actually want them to generate by default. A couple of other items. I know we get into the show empty environment, but I just want to point out this bottom one. A lot of times you'll go in and you'll click the wrong X and it'll close Management Reporter. This will actually ask you if you actually want to close. So you click it and it'll warn you saying, hey, you're closing me out, and then you can actually hit cancel. Also this one, when I started working with Management Reporter, there was the default viewer that it came with. The web viewer didn't exist, and I prefer that option. So if I want to use that still, I can. And I get a lot of requests now and then when we do a server upgrade or migration, there's a change and it always generates to the web. Well, this checkbox will get you back to the default viewer. Nowadays, folks usually have generally pretty big monitors, but there was a time in the past where you wanted more real estate on your screen and it just wasn't there. If you want to get rid of the navigation pane on the left, you can use the toolbar to hide it, or you can simply click the Alt key plus F1, and you'll see in the example where it gets rid of the navigation pane along the left side to give you a little more real estate to work within your report. The report group option, this was a big one when it came out. You could do this in FRX when you would chain reports together. But this gives you a lot better, easier option where you don't have to go into each report anymore and change the dates within it. You can override the company and detail settings by simply clicking the checkbox here to override the settings, and anything in that report group is now going to run for the date you select inside of this report group. You also have the ability to change the zero value text. So when you run a report, it can show a 0 by default, but you can also change it to be, in this example, NA, or you can put a dash in there, or any symbol that you want to symbolize a 0 balance in that account. When you start Management Reporter, you have the options to do a couple of different things. You can show the open window. I'm just going to flip over to Management Reporter and show you what that is. So when I open MR, this is what's considered the open window. It just prompts you with a report that you want to open. You also have the ability to make it show an empty environment or the last report that you worked with. Headers and footers, this is a nice one, a nice feature that really makes your reports pop. So along with your company colors, go ahead and add your logos in. All you need to do is add them in here once, and then they're going to be available for you to work with inside of your headers and footers of your reports. You can see the example in the lower left where our Fabricam company logo runs along with the report with a different colored font of revenue. This is a very uncommon option. Just want to let you know that it is available. So if you run a report and say you're running it for the consolidated level, or there's a consolidated level, multiple levels in your report that are consolidated, all you need to do to make that show is put an additional piece of information in your header here and use this text from reporting tree, and it's going to allow you to get some different displays of header information depending on the unit of the tree that you're on. Just showing you some flexibility within the auto text. In this case, you can see that they wanted to show the amount of rounding that was taking place inside of the report. In this case, it's rounding to whole hundreds. So all that does is grab the data from within your report. And really, when you're working with a report in that auto text, it just allows you to grab information related to your report. So in this case, on my settings, there's no rounding. So if I had utilized that, it would say no rounding inside of my report in this example. You can see in the bottom right where it says whole hundreds. Just showing here that you have the ability to change what shows inside your headers. You can show headers and footers. We talked about summary lines only. I usually want to see my headers, so I'm really just pointing out that if just in case there's some oddball option or reason why you might not want the headers to show, you have the ability to make them not show on the report. Management Reporter also adds a very minimal flexibility with adding charts inside the report. They're very simplistic. If you're going to want some sort of fancy charts, fancy headers, using the data more robustly, then I would recommend using something like Power BI.